mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleed and Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Suddenly, I heard a tapping, as if someone was gently rapping at my chamber door. Hiya!
Yeah. Oh, that was... Oh, yeah, I just realised what you were doing before we came on now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Monsters Up North podcast. Before we get into this week's episode, I just want to say, as of the recording, we are 2 years old!
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to... We've just woke things up. Happy birthday.
That's like, what?
What? He's like, yeah, we're 2 years old. Our first episode
We're
aired.
toddlers. We're in the terrible twos.
Yes, did you see Kelly's post today?
Oh.
Kelly Younghun, who comes on the Nerdy Up North, she posted a massive happy birthday to the Monsters Up North podcast. You're now in the terrible twos. Yes, that was so sweet. But yes, we're two. Well, are we two? Because you know the episode numbers, so you know how many episodes we've done.
We're 2 years old, but we have our little breaks. So technically,
That's right.
we've been going for 2 years, but we're on episode 89, 90 something, somewhere around that off the top of my head. So
We've done a lot.
yes.
We've done a lot.
Yes.
2 years of me, Dan. How do you feel?
I want to preface that by saying 2 years of me.
I'm really lucky.
Aren't the listeners lucky? Yeah. Bloody hell.
Well, we're celebrating 2 years with a really bleak subject.
Death.
Oh, lots of it. Yes, today we're doing cursed movies, The Crow.
Yes, we are here to dispel the mythos behind this new wave of, I say new, it's not new, the wave of this whole premise of curses within films. We touched on it before with the Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And I think we came up with a vehement no, it was not cursed. So I'm curious to see where we are at the end of this one.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll wait until the end, because we instantly at the beginning went, this is not a cursed movie for Poltergeist. We'll wait at the end, and then we can weigh up everything that we've talked about, and we can decide from there, is this a cursed movie?
Yeah, so it's a different format. We're not going to be going around the movie like we know. We're not going to be talking about the movie from start to finish. We will drop scenes or talk about things, but we're not going to go through the movie like we normally do. So it's a slightly different format in our cursed movies, cursed films thing. So
just know that, because this is going to be a thing now. This is what we're going to be doing from time to time. I am going to do the disclaimer.
Okie dokie.
Because I feel like we might need it. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on the socials. Or you can join us in the Nerdy Up North Discord or the comment section where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun. We'll keep it kind and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism. Hit it.
Don't be a dick.
Thank you. Also, trigger warning. It's going to be a lot of grim talk in this.
Yeah.
A lot of grim talk and a lot of death talk. I ain't sugarcoating any of my words. I'm going to be talking quite nutter blatant. Even though it's not like the Poltergeist where we got a bit heated over some things. I don't feel like this is going to be a heated conversation. It's just going to be, it's grim. It's really grim. And it's sad. It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
So, cursed movies. The Crow. Right. The first thing I have on my my laptop is, what makes The Crow a cursed movie? A question mark.
Right.
I have a very basic thing from the Crow movie. I actually got my material today from Shudder, a lot from IMDb, Colander, and Screen Rants. They were the main ones that I picked from, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos and the Shudder program first movie, which, by the way, wish I watched for the Poltergeist
Oh,
because it's so good.
I watched them when they came out, so I knew of them, so I knew to go back and reference them for this. But yeah, there's a lot you find out within the interviews that they do that no one wasn't common knowledge at the time, or wasn't common knowledge that was reported. So I think if you got 25 minutes, because that's all the episode is, go to Shudder, look up Cursed Films, and give the episodes a watch. There's 2 seasons on there. And yeah, it'll give you a better sense of how the people
were.
Yeah, how the people that worked with them felt. Even now, you know, like 30 years on, how they feel. So
Dan, that was heartbreaking. How raw it was to them, like 30 odd years later. I was like, oh my God, this stays with you. Like this doesn't leave.
we think about that though. I mean, how many people witnessed the main one when it happened?
Yeah.
And they were all party to so many things that happened over the film, the production at that point. I mean, as far as I'm aware, from day one of production to the incident that everybody knows about, it was a 52 days. So all of these curses, in quotation, air quotations, took place in a period of 52 days. That's just over 2 months. It's around 2 months, maybe hitting into 3. So you're talking maybe 10 weeks. 10 weeks, all this shit happened. And when we start going through it, you'll see what I mean. It is so much.
It's
so many things happened.
So I know from what I've read and what I've heard, on the first day of shooting, an electrician was backing a cherry picker. Was baking? What the fuck does my note say? was backing a cherry picker truck up and hit the high tension wire of the power lines above him. So he was electrocuted and caught on fire. Everyone rushed him to hospital where he was treated for 2nd-degree burns. He did survive, but he did have to have his ear removed. That was the first day, but I've just missed a part out. It's the very beginning, before we even start shooting. It's the telephone call.
Yeah.
The voicemail that was left to tell them, do not make this movie.
This was the studio received this phone call, didn't they?
Yep.
And the studio at the time that took this movie on, that made the film, was Paramount Studios. So it's a hell of a studio to be taking it on, considering it was just a little known comic book. Really, it had a cult following, but it wasn't like the Avengers or Marvel. You know, it wasn't DC. It didn't have that level of everybody had a copy in the thing. It was like goths and weirdos. It was our sort of alternative version of like, oh, there's a darker side to comics that we can actually enjoy, that we might feel comfortable in. And
my goth Bible.
Way before the phone call though, there was now this is a ridiculous notion, but it is what I've seen it referred to as, and it does make me annoyed because I think it's just stupid to be referred as. They reckon the origin of the curse was James O'Barr, who wrote The Crow, the comic book, and wrote the film, and lost his fiancée, girlfriend, partner in a car accident. She died, passed away, which then in turn, when he was trying to process his grief, he came up with writing The Crow. That's how he got through it. That's how he processed everything. So technically it was like autobiographical to a degree, because it was talking about the loss of Shelley and that, you know, and it was how he was trying to work through it with himself. So they're saying that was the origin of the curse, which then literally proceeded to have the knock-on effect. Even though the comic was written years before the film was made, it's
it's because it can there can be a link to it.
Mhm.
He was in the military. He enlisted because he needed something to do. He needed somewhere that he had a lot of anger because he had his whole life taken away from him. I think it was a hit and run.
I can't remember whether she was in the car or outside the car, but I
Yeah,
know it was a car accident.
it was a car accident. And when he was enlisted, he had it. I can't remember what he did. It was office work because he wasn't on the main field or anything. It might have even been photography. And he this is where he had a lot of free time in his hands because obviously you don't have a social life when you when you've been enlisted or enlist yourself. And this is where he came up with the crow. And I totally understand how people could use that incident to link it, especially because the crow in itself is life imitating art, imitating life.
Hmm.
It and it's a very very like a circle. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
I'm glad
And
you do.
I feel like the phone call that took place to the studio saying,
Mm,
"Oh, you mustn't make this film. Bad things will happen." Obviously, this isn't word for word, but like, um, it was a bit of a premonition moment for whoever it was who called. They never disclosed that, to my knowledge. I couldn't find
no, there was
who
nothing.
they if they ever found out who made the call or anything like that, or that they just, as far as I'm aware, they chalked it down to just like some nut job saying, "Oh, don't do this," blah blah. So they were like, "Okay, we won't." Yep, lovely, bye. And
I wonder how many film studios have actually had that message though. I bet someone's done it before.
oh, I can guarantee you hundreds of people have done that about movies that they about people that they shouldn't be making movies about.
Yeah. My notes say after the phone call, it's like, and before long, the message was right. How dramatic are my notes? But then on the first day, the incident that I mentioned with the electrician happened,
Yeah.
and then a hurricane comes.
Yeah,
Now,
the storm of the century they called it, didn't they?
yeah, and the crow's backlock set went,
Yeah.
and this is where the curse starts.
Well, this is where the
The-
domino effect really starts going into it. You had the electrician being
mhm,
electrocuted and set on fire.
yeah,
And then you had the storm of the century hitting North Carolina, bearing in mind where this was filmed. Wasn't well known for this level of storm surge. It was like once in a lifetime, out of nowhere, in the worst possible time of the year. It was everything that shouldn't it shouldn't have been then, but it was.
yeah,
And even if it does happen then, it's never that bad. It was just like turned up to 11 for what it should have been if it was to happen even at all, like a storm.
yeah,
So it was insanely out of character, out of season, out of all of the things apparently. Again, this is just stuff that we've read. Obviously, you read other versions, they might say something different, but the storm of the century literally washed away and broke half of the backlot, didn't it? Like,
yeah,
got rid of the backlot set completely.
yeah.
And when you think of a set as it is now, when you watch The Crow, some of it is miniatures, some of it is CGI, very early CGI, and
Very
some
early,
of
and
it,
we'll talk about that
yeah,
later.
and then some of it is genuine footage of sets. Now, I think after that, now it jumps about a bit from here for me. The timeline
So
gets a bit squiffy.
I'm going to let you take it because my notes literally take me up to the storm and then it's all about him.
Yeah. So someone, now they don't know how it happened, but a truck was stolen on set. And the truck then was proceeded to be joyridden through the set and destroyed massive parts of the set and did thousands of dollars worth of damage. Which was a strange thing to have happened. So how someone even got on the set to steal it in the first place, I don't know whether they were a family member or a friend that somebody at the set workers brought on. They never clarified that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the stunt team was working on the shots where you see Eric balancing on the rooftops quite a lot,
Yes.
and he parkour, across on some of the bits.
Oh, when he's running, yes, when he's
You've
like,
got the running
yes,
shots, but you've
yeah,
also got some of the shots where he's just standing there and they do the zooming in and zooming out of him on the roof or his
yeah,
like silhouette and stuff.
yeah.
One of the stunt workers was going through that. They weren't recording, he was just going through doing his plotting and trying to work out where he was supposed to be, and he fell through the roof and really hurt himself. Then you had one of the equipment trucks was full of equipment for the movie and it got set on fire and they lost all the equipment within the truck.
Jesus Christ.
Then one of the publicists for the film that worked for Paramount was in a horrific car accident on the way to set or to a meeting that was either on set or at the studio. So and got quite hurt quite badly. Also, this one though, I'm sorry, they put this under the curses banner, but this could just be put down as just clumsiness, but we'll take it. One of
the queen of clumsy here, so let's go.
One of the set workers got stabbed by a screwdriver.
I can totally see how that would happen.
So I'm putting that one down as a bullshit, but it's added onto the list of nonsense.
Hey, as a person who has stabbed themselves many times, I can see that happening. But not cursed.
There's one of the other ones which I think we'll go into detail about a bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Was Michael Berryman's whole thing, because they put that under the umbrella of the curse as well, because Michael Berryman was cast as the Skull Cowboy and he shot many scenes with Brandon. There was loads, but the problem was because when you shoot a movie, you don't shoot in sequence like we see. Some people don't realize that to this day, that they don't shoot the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they can do, but it's very rare, and there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, so obviously schedules, they've got to work out schedules for all the actors because they might be on other projects, or they've got to work out their first set crew and their second crew, and that they have all there's a lot of moving parts. So when they filmed the Skull Cowboy parts, it was filmed so disjointed that when it came to wrapping it up, they couldn't put the main plot points in the movie because they couldn't film that key scene, because at that point Brandon had gone, and it couldn't be warranted with just a mask or a CG crow. They needed dialogue, they needed more to it to give that whole thing substance. So hence Michael's character got completely axed, and they put that under the curse as well. So that was just another thing that they were adding to the long list of bullshittery.
This movie is cursed.
Yeah, then I don't think this comes under the curse, but it was on a list of the curses. But the rumored actors that were originally cast to play Eric Draven haven't had the best kind of careers. They've had fantastic careers in their own rights, but it's not been without its own personal little turmoil. So originally when they were looking to cast Eric, they were looking for somebody who was a big name, because it's a big studio. Paramount wanted that name, right? Bear in mind, you've got to remember Brandon Lee was a bit actor. He did martial arts movies. He was like a very, very young Chuck Norris, Ralph Macchio. He wasn't he wasn't a name, right?
He wasn't. If he was, it was for the wrong reasons, and not the wrong reasons, sorry, but it was because of his dad. But he was trying to figure out where he was in Hollywood and what genre he wanted to be in.
So they weren't he was not on their radar, so to speak, when it first started casting. So they looked at three actors. Now the three actors they looked at was River Phoenix. River is no longer with us, as we well know, due to the Viper Room incident
on Halloween.
Then we have Christian Slater, who was looked at. Now, can you see Christian Slater as Eric Draven? I can't.
No, but if they've got River Phoenix in mind, bearing in mind just take Brandon, because Brandon Lee does not look like the Crow in the comics. In actual fact, Bill Skarsgård looks closer to the Crow in the comics, silhouette style.
Well, they reckon Iggy Pop should have always played the Crow, because Iggy Pop
No, he's in City of Angels, and that's a fucking enough. No.
That was the imagery they were trying to give off for Eric. They wanted to make him that kind of like Iggy Pop figure where he
What,
was like,
meth look?
he had like the mullet, the punk dude. He was like Susie and the Banshee kind of style. That's the imagery that we were given.
Yeah, because that's if you've got to know that this is why I can understand where they went with Bill Skarsgård because of the original drawings of Eric. I can kind of see it a little bit. But you know who I think, and I'm only basing this off one movie who I think could have actually done it to comic book accuracy is Gary Oldman.
And
And I'm thinking Sid and Nancy.
well, people need to go and watch the interview he recently did with Stephen Colbert. It's hilarious. There's a whole section where they replace every important scene he's ever done in a movie with farting because of obviously when he's in Slow Horses and Jackson just consistently farts all the way through Slow Horses if you ever see it, the TV show. And I love it. I've seen season 1.
I've heard it's good.
But they put all these it's so juvenile, but I love it. Farts always make me laugh. And Stephen, I've never seen Gary Oldman cry laughing. And it's the sheer joy on his face when he's watching it. It's on TikTok if anybody wants to go and watch that clip. It's about a 5-minute clip, but it literally your stomach hurts after watching it because it's so stupid. But yeah, Christian Slater. Now I can't see it. The guy is too small for me to be playing.
It's too cutesy.
But he was of the time. So if you look at like how River looked and then look at Christian in Heathers, you sort of
it's very similar.
It's that whole it's that teen beat smash hits.
Yeah. Look. Oh my God, yes, yeah.
And then the last and third one, who shall we say? I mean, obviously Christian had his thing because he was a hardcore addict at one point, and there was a lot going on. He became a bad boy. He became known for not being
he's good now, though.
He's a good boy now, yeah. But the third and final one that they looked at was another teen beat heartthrob / very similar guy, Mr. Johnny Depp.
No.
So those three were the original trio that they were looking at to play Eric Draven because of their popularity at the time, because of the money that they knew they could make off of maybe branding merch.
Yeah.
Because they knew that they could sell it. I don't know what happened, whether it was the death of River at Johnny's club that obviously ruled River out because, unless he's going to be a ghost, he can't come back and be Eric, can he? But like the whole connotation with Johnny being at the Viper Room at the, all that. I mean,
it's all linked.
But
I'm sure. Oh, go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I'm sure Christian was in that Brat Packy.
Oh, 100%.
Thing as well. So I think maybe they just wanted rid of that whole association. So hence Brandon screen tested for it, and they just fell in love with him.
James O'Barr fell in love with him.
Yeah.
James O'Barr fell in love with him because he kept quoting his book to him, and he was like, "Oh, you're a fan."
Yeah.
And he really appreciated that. They had an amazing relationship. What happened to Brandon crushed him. It really is there's points in because I don't know if anyone realizes, but The Crow is the last issue only came out in 2020, so his influence is heavily in there. But there was a long-standing rumor for so many years that the only way that they got to finish the movie was through stand-ins, and the person who stood in for Brandon Lee was Johnny Depp, and everyone always went to go and look for, I know differently because I know how they did it. But that was the rumor, was that it was Johnny Depp who stood in for him, and I was like, oh, but they did the same when Heath Ledger died. Exactly the same. Oh well, they couldn't finish it, so they had certain actors come in to help. No, they don't do that. They will do anything other than do that. It's been proven. Paul Walker, Oliver Reed. So
the Paul Walker thing is gross though, because I mean, with all due respect, he's got a twin brother, so that was an easy out. But yeah, like, I mean, yeah, there's this sort of ties into the final kind of part of the curse, but it's not even. I don't class this as part of a curse, but again, it was on the list of curses, so I will I'll say what it happens.
Reference
And you
it,
might
yeah.
know this from watching the Shudder one, but it's
Mhm.
ended up on the list of curses. Lance Anderson, who was the chief special effects makeup artist
Yes.
on The Crow, he states that he had a totally different kind of relationship with Brandon because he spent so much time working out how the prosthetics would work for him when, with all the action sequences, people don't understand that when an actor's doing their own stunts, they have to be able to work with the prosthetics. So when they get shot, they have to have the squib packs on, so they need to make sure that it can't be seen under their clothing. And there's like, how are you going to choreograph this scene? How do we work out when to shoot the squibs? And like when they have knives thrown at them and they have them pop out their chest, do you know, there's lots of
I
mechanisms.
know, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so they spent a lot of time together developing rigs that would work for the physicality of the role, and
Mhm.
you know how Brandon would be able to do it. They developed the pale face together. Obviously, it's similar to the one in the comics, but they
It's
made it
so
slightly
unique.
different.
It's unique to him.
Yeah, and what they did was they made it so that it would fade from the beginning to the end.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So they had what I'm trying to do here is establish how good a relationship the two of them had, and he still to this day holds Brandon in such high regard that he was supposed to, after Brandon's death, he wanted to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Lance did not want anything to do with the movie. He was like, "No, I'm done now." But there were still things that needed to be tidied up. And if it wasn't for Eliza and Brandon's mum,
Linda.
that when they said that they wanted the movie to be made because it was a passion project for Brandon. Brandon loved this movie
He was
so
so
much
proud of it.
that Lance said, right, okay, well, I'll come on board. So he agreed before knowing what they were planning on doing. And I think it was a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but it was something that haunted him for a long time afterwards, because they asked him to replicate Brandon's face through prosthetics. And this is the bit that I can completely get on board with the guy, because the guy was just like, it was the most physically disgusting, horrible experience I've ever had, because I had to recreate the face of someone I knew that had just passed and we were all still grieving.
Yeah.
And I'm putting it on his stunt double's face, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm looking back at Brandon and Brandon's looking at me, but Brandon's not in there. And he said, you know, it haunted him for such a long time. He said it was the lowest point of his career that he ever had. And to this day, he wishes that he hadn't done it, but he realized that he had to do it because it was what they wanted him to do. So,
Yeah.
you know, he went with it, but to this day, it's one of his biggest regrets.
Yeah. If nobody knows the name Lance Anderson, he is the father of David Leroy Anderson, who is another special effects makeup artist. They both have a joint nomination for the work that they did on the Cinderella Man. He's also a student of the Stan Winston School, so that's where he learned his trade. He's an artist now. I think the makeup world has kind of left him, but he in that interview I sobbed.
Yeah.
I don't do very well with men crying, like fully grown men crying. And it was him and the other guy, one of the guys who worked on the film, and the other one was like, I don't want to talk about this.
He was one of the producers.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to talk about this. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I get it, but I still want to hear. But I understand, but I still
You're
kind
here
of
for
want
a
to know.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of still want to know. But yeah, shall we get into Brandon, or shall we go to Bruce?
Well, we can do, Bruce, because this is where the the personal, again, air quotes, the personal curse, they say, started with Bruce. So that's the film curse to one side. All the curses that they say that happened led up to the big one that we'll get to. But then there's the personal curses, which
Yeah.
is
Where do we even
another
start
ball
with Bruce?
game.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
I've got.
Bruce Lee.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I'm my grandfather was a huge fan of martial art movies, of I hope this is the right terminology, kung fu movies.
Mhm.
He absolutely loved them. So this was a style, his style of movies is something that I grew up with quite a bit. But I have never watched a Bruce Lee movie. But what I have watched is the autobiography movie that kind of delves into the Lee family curse. Because it's not just, so it is kind of Bruce's family where it starts from. It's Bruce's parents.
Mhm.
Bruce's parents lost their first child, and they were utterly convinced that it was a demon who took their child. And I'm not sure, they genuinely thought that this demon took their firstborn son. And because they had a second son, they were so scared of this demon coming to take their son, they would dress him in girls' clothing to hide them from the demon.
And this was the thing, right? Bearing in mind, at this point, people don't realize Bruce is a US citizen. He was born and bred in San Francisco in America.
Yes.
And he was not an import. He was
No.
US born and bred. His
Mhm.
parents were both from Hong Kong. And at the age of 1, they took him back to Hong Kong because they wanted to see, like, his mum was an opera singer, or she was like a
Yeah,
entertainer
she
in
was
the
in the
world, and
arts.
she had to go back on tour, so they took him back to Hong Kong, and he was there for till he was about 18 or 19. But
Hmm.
when he first moved there, obviously when he got into the understanding teenage years, he realized he was getting bullied quite a lot because he had an American accent. Even though he was fluent in Cantonese and everything, he was still quite westernized because that's what he knew
Yeah.
from what, I mean, one isn't old and you can change those things, but because his parents had been in America, they had that, there was a different
Yeah.
way of bringing the child up. And obviously
Hmm.
with the dressing it like a female and the
Yeah.
hiding it from the demon and all that sort of thing, that's not something that a lot of other families could understand, possibly. So he got bullied really badly, which is where he then went in and found martial arts. He found somewhere to be able to channel his anger healthily. um but the problem with Bruce was he got so angry so easily that he used to
Yeah.
get in trouble with the police a lot,
Yeah.
a lot. So the parents went, right, off you trot, go on, you're going back to America, you're going by yourself, off you go. 18, right? So he'd known nothing more than Hong Kong for 17 years of his life at that point. And they were like, right, you go to Chinatown in San Francisco, and you go and you stay with family, and you work in a restaurant, and you be a good boy, and you learn manners, and you stay out of trouble.
He didn't. Spoilers, he didn't.
No, Bruce was a bit of a brawler boy, wasn't he? He
A
didn't
bit.
know. He just didn't know how to deal with emotions, which is a
Yeah.
commonality for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Until he met Linda. And
The
now
love of his
Linda,
life.
yeah, Linda was the love of his life, and Linda's Brandon's mum. In 1963, they met and they opened a kung fu school in San Francisco.
Yeah.
It then led him to become a real, like, big figure in the martial arts world. People stood up.
They knew his name. That
Yeah,
was that, and
he
that was really important to him as well.
yeah, it commanded some respect and some sort of like
Yeah.
acknowledgement that he knew what he was doing. Um, but this was the bit. Now you must have read this as well, but this is the bit that got me the most. It's the connection to the Mansons.
Holy shit! No, I didn't.
Right. In 1963, he met Linda. They opened a kung fu school. He started to do competitive martial arts. So he
Yeah.
competed in a lot of the big tournaments, the nationwide tournaments in the US. And when he was competing in one of them, he actually met Jay Sebring.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
And
Sebring was everywhere.
I'll let you explain to those who might not know who Jay is. I'll let you explain that
Jay,
bit.
Jay Sebring is oh gosh. Is he the hairstylist?
Yes.
Was he? Yeah, he is the hairstylist to the stars. He was Sharon Tate. I want to say he was Sharon Tate's best friend.
Mhm.
He wanted Sharon Tate more than anything in the world. He actually had Sharon Tate. They were together for quite a bit, and then she met Roman Polanski and thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, he's better." Why? Don't know. But Jay Sebring was a huge deal in Hollywood. Was he the Vidal Sassoon? Was it wasn't Vidal Sassoon? It was. Oh gosh, he did have a student. He did have a big name attached to him, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. And unfortunately, Sebring was with Sharon Tate the night of the Manson murders.
Yes.
Oh
Which
dear.
is a strange coincidence that came across that. But Jay basically then introduced Bruce to some TV producers that he
Knew
knew through doing
he
hair
knew
and through doing
he knew
makeup on
everyone.
sets and stuff. Yeah.
Jay was such a connection point. He
Yeah.
knew everyone because, like I say, he did their hair. He spoke to them. You know what it's like getting your hair done by someone. You tell them things you don't even realize that you bring it out. So yeah, Jay knew a lot of people.
Yeah, so he introduced him to some TV people, and then that's where they screen tested Bruce for the Green Hornet to play Kato, which was his
Ah,
first major TV movie
thing.
entrance into Hollywood. He'd already started to compete against and have some low-level stars come to his martial arts academy and things like that, but it wasn't really a thing. He didn't pay attention, he didn't really care. But when he got the opportunity to get in the film, he thought get into TV and film, he thought, oh well, I'll give it a go, and then maybe it will make the business better because it'll bring more people to the business when they know that this is me and blah blah blah. So he was a businessman. He understood
Hmm.
that, you know, he had to sell himself to get more people through the door the
Oh
other
yeah.
way. And they fell in love with his ability, like, to bring Kato to the screen. He went on holiday back to Hong Kong to see his parents, and in doing so, he he met some Hollywood, some Hong Kong. Oh, crying out loud! He met some TV movie producers in Hong Kong that were famous for the kung fu movies, and that's where his
Hmm.
career began in the kung fu movies. But when he
Yes.
went back to Hong Kong to visit his parents, so it gets really weird. um yeah, so his career then took off and everything was going well. Everything was going great. He
Oh,
was in
peachy.
movie after movie after movie. He then moved back to Hollywood. Hollywood had heard about all these kung fu movies and they were trying to replicate them
And it
in
was such a
Hollywood.
thing. It was such a thing. It was like the Westerns have gone now. We
Yeah,
now need something new, and this was the
can
thing.
influence. We
Yeah,
need this wave of Asian cinema, this wave
yeah.
of Asian TV. You're talking like there was just an abundance of like these kind of movies that were coming out, but it was amazing that these actors could do their own stunts, and it was something that was quite unheard of
So
at the time.
new, so
Because
new.
you look at Jackie Chan, the amount of time it takes them to film one scene because he has to get the moves exactly right to be able to he would rather never use CGI. If you see him kick something, it's him kicking something. It's not ad-libbed
Yeah.
or put in later in post. Um, Obviously in the 60s and 70s you couldn't really do that. But the more Bruce got into the heavily active side of the stunt work that he was doing
Yeah.
in the films, he didn't like the fact that he was incredibly he was a sweaty man, shall we say. He had issues.
Oh, Christ, and I didn't, and I've just remembered where you're going with it. Yeah.
Yeah, he had sweaty
He
issues with his
didn't,
tits, and he
he
didn't
didn't, he
like it.
didn't like how it showed on screen.
No, he said it made him look, I don't know whether it was unclean or whatever. He just didn't like it.
He had such an image in his head of how
Yeah,
he wanted to be portrayed on screen, and that, you know, that was not it. So he decided to do something about it.
he did. And it was extreme. And I don't know why.
Really extreme.
I mean, we have an equivalent these days. I suppose you get Botox done, don't you, in your armpits these
You
days.
would now, yeah, you
But
would now. You wouldn't do what he did.
no, in 1971, he went for an operation where they removed his sweat glands in his armpits, right? I don't know how much of it, I don't think they took anything from anywhere else. As far as I'm aware, it was just his pits he had his sweat glands removed from. Now, bear
But
in
yeah,
mind
because
that they're for a reason.
they are they have played an important part. The only person I have ever heard in like what I would class as pop culture, maybe even going into true crime in a way. The only the only person I have ever heard that being done to was Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Her
Mm.
mother had her sweat glands removed. What the fuck?
Her mother was a sadist, though. That Munchausen by proxy was nuts.
That's
And
it was on another.
I dread to think if it's hereditary because she's now not herself.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
But yeah,
hope
it's
people are looking at that girl and just checking in on making sure there's no nonsense or shenanigans going on there. So
I fucking hope not. Let's not have history repeat itself, shall
Mm.
we? But yeah, it's such a horrific, not a horrific, but it's so invasive and it's so it it changes everything.
Mm.
But it's the look he wanted.
Yeah.
He had a very strong image, and this is what he went and did, preferably to his detriment. But
Yeah, because it says here that in 1973 he was at a friend's house and he started to feel a bit unwell. He thought it was coming down with something. Didn't
shall we
really-
call her what she is?
All right,
His
his mistress.
mistress.
Which was sad because Linda was the love of his life.
Really,
Linda,
she was.
to the day he died, they were still married.
Mhm.
Um,
She knows where he was that night. It was
Yeah.
not a mystery to her. We say mistress. We don't know. We weren't there. Could have been a friend. It's not what people say, but hey, yeah, he was at this lady's house.
and
Oh.
he said he wasn't feeling too well, so he said she gave him a pet painkiller. She said, "I'll go and take this," and he took
It was
it. And
aspirin.
yeah, and so she said, he said, "I'm going for a lie down," and he never woke up. What they think happened was twofold. They think he was hypersensitive
Yeah.
to the form of painkiller he had, which then in turn led to a seizure. But because the body could not sweat the poison out of his system, it then caused a catastrophic stroke because he couldn't regulate his own body temperature.
Yes, that, and he had a stroke the day before.
Which he didn't tell anybody about.
No, he didn't, and it's. I knew about the aspirin story.
Yeah.
And the hypersensitivity and the fact that it caused a stroke, it could have caused a stroke seizure afterwards. They don't talk about the fact that he actually had a stroke the day before.
Yeah, because it was a TIA. So not to diminish anyone that's had a TIA over a stroke, but a TIA is it's like a baby stroke. It's like a warning. It's like
Yeah.
You listen to your body.
And all's going to be okay if you do.
Yeah,
If you
listen to what this is telling you because there's something you need to hear. Something's not right. But Bruce being Bruce,
he knew everything.
I kind of get the impression, not that he was a nasty person, because no one says he was a nasty person. I just
No.
kind of get the impression he was very determined, and if you weren't in his, if it didn't fit his narrative, then he wasn't interested.
And imagine him being very high maintenance.
Oh God, yeah.
Very shit sure of himself.
Mm.
You have to be shit sure of yourself if you to say to yourself, I have this image in my head of how I want to look on screen. Remove my sweat glands. Like, you've got to be completely shit sure of yourself.
32 years old he was when he passed away.
Oh,
32.
It's no fucking age.
At that point, Brandon was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And
But what did people think? No, but what did people think he actually died of, Dan?
Well, this was the thing. You should see the long list of conspiracy theories from what he died of. They thought at one point the Chinese mafia had put a hit out on him
Because he
the
was giving away secrets in his martial arts.
Apparently, the way he was moving his body was triad secrets, and they thought it was a code. And he was giving away like trade secrets. And I mean, I'm not being funny. I mean, I can just about remember the phonetic alphabet. There's no way you're going to get me knowing every flag in the SOS book. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I don't know.
that way.
Yeah, dots and commas, boop, 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 but, Morse code. Jesus, no, right? So how the freak they think this guy memorized every move as like some sort of like, if you turn left at Chinatown and right into the Bank of England, you will see the Triads hideout. Through his handwork.
It's right there. It's over there.
That was ridiculous.
It's because Bruce Lee had his own style of martial arts. He created his own style of martial arts. So when something is not recognized as traditional martial arts are like, oh shit, what's he doing? He literally was just so creative with with his trade, with his talent, that he did manage to create his own style. He wasn't giving away Chinese secrets.
That's the weird thing.
That one always tickled me.
But the gist of this we're getting to, the curse is the fact that Bruce died when he was 32. But
And there was such a conspiracy around it at the time.
the other and the curse, the coincidence, I'm going to say coincidence here. The coincidence of the fact that the very last film Bruce made, Game of Death,
Oh yeah.
was constantly referenced as a mirror's image of what happened to Brandon. Now, in Game of Death, Bruce's character got shot on set by a real person, and he actually died within the film on set.
I've
Obviously,
watched
not in
it.
real life.
I've seen the scene.
And technically, nothing like the other film, but it happened on a set. That's the only similarity.
There was people there.
Yeah.
There was a full stage of people there, and this mysterious guy walks over, shoots Lee, and just walks away.
Yes.
Yeah, do you see? He might as
Speaking
well
at
have
the
just
door at the end.
he might as well have just like tiptoed out the back, like, see ya.
Big glowing neon sign above his head.
But
It was me.
he doesn't move his head though,
No.
does he? He's still the whole time.
It's so weird. Yeah, so that is the curse is because Bruce was 32. He died in a circumstance that was possibly avoidable. And obviously the very last movie he made was, and I'm not using their words, not mine, a mirror image of what happened to Brandon. So
Yeah. And also, if you ever see his autobiography film, which is actually I do actually like, there is a scene in there's a dream sequence that Bruce has where Brandon it's like a Shaolin temple, and Brandon's on one side, he's on the other, and in the middle is a demon, and it's him trying to rescue Brandon from the demon. It's such a powerful scene, like father son kind of thing. And interviews with Brandon when he says, I generally don't mind talking about the man, about the art, about everything that went with them. But what I don't like doing is talking about the conspiracies.
Yeah.
Because there's not one. It was an unfortunate thing that happened, and I lost my father because of it. So if you want to talk about the man, let's talk about the man. But I ain't going to talk about what you think happened to him on that night. I've been loving sitting with Brandon Lee over the last week. I have done nothing but watch his interviews. He is so softly spoken, and he is so he speaks so beautifully as well.
I think a lot of that has to do with schooling as well, though, because Brandon moved to Hong Kong when he was 8. So he'd been also born in the US and moved to Hong Kong.
Is he bilingual? Can he speak both languages?
Yep, he speaks Cantonese, and he's very, very well versed in
Mandarin?
Mandarin, and English as well. But he people forget Hong Kong was one of ours. God, that sounds awful. The British Empire.
I know what you meant.
We had a claim on Hong Kong for a very, very long time, so it was part of the British Empire. Therefore, the education system was very
English.
Yeah, so hence Brandon's education. He was in his formative years when he went, so his schooling is very much based around how upper class.
Oh no, that's not us. We're not upper class.
No, but upper class British kids in more private style of school or upper class public schools. The level
not like where me and Dan went.
The level of education they had was what the schools in places like Hong Kong were getting. They were getting. He was taught how to be a lot more eloquent than your average.
It shows. It absolutely showed in them interviews. He's so well put together.
Yeah.
He's passionate about everything. Yeah. Everything he's done. He started off in martial arts, like his father, And the scene work that I've seen, he looks so different. You can't. It's so weird to picture Brandon Lee with no hair or short hair, because the imagery that you have straight away is that long, beautiful hair that he has for the Crow. But yeah, working with the likes of David Carradine, who, oh my Christ, oh yeah, that was another one of the things that I thought Bruce died of, was the
5 pound
punch.
punch. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, David Carradine comes to me head, and like, yes, because David Carradine is actually a martial arts movie star. He's
Was
very much was. Yeah, he's very
until he was
dead.
found, until he was found in a cupboard.
Until secrets about him came out, I did not want to know about.
Yeah, no one needs to know those things about David Carradine.
No, because we want to remember David Carradine for dying in Kill Bill. That's what we want to remember him for. We don't want to remember him about in a cupboard. And let's not even talk about his fucking brothers.
Uh,
Do you know who his niece is?
no.
Remember what's her name? She was with River Phoenix. She wasn't with River Phoenix. She was River Phoenix's ex-girlfriend. She's in the Goonies. Steph in the Goonies. What the fuck's her
Oh,
name?
Steph. Oh, yeah, no, I know who you mean. Yeah.
She's a Carradine.
Is she really?
Yeah. Raising Hope. That's what she's in. Why can't I think about it?
Parenthood.
Martha Plimpton.
Yeah, she was in Parenthood with River. That's yeah.
Keanu. No,
Yeah.
Joaquin.
Yeah, that's the one.
Parenthood, Joaquin. Yeah.
Leaf.
Yeah, Martha Plimpton. She's a Carradine. Her dad is Keith Carradine, who is oh God, he's Penny's dad in Big Bang Theory,
Yeah.
and amongst other things. There's a history on the Carradines for you.
I know that when Brandon returned to America, he was at high school age. So he was put into high school and he rebelled.
Of course he did. He lost his
did.
dad so young.
Yeah, this is 10 years on from when his dad passed. So his dad passed in 73, and he was in her high school in America in 83, because Linda had packed them up and moved back, which is understandable. Linda wanted to be with her family.
He didn't. That's not her life.
No.
Her life was with Bruce over there,
Yeah.
but not outside of Bruce. 83, year I was born.
Yeah, so in 83, he got repeatedly expelled from school because he was just not.
Kind of following in his father's footsteps, isn't it? It's very much like.
Yeah, he just didn't do well with school. He then attended. Basically, Linda sat him down and went, right, what is it you want to do? What is it you enjoy about school that when you do go, what is it you love doing? And he was like, well, Mum, I want to act. I want to do martial arts. I want to do these things. And Linda said to him, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it out of some misguided loyalty for your father? What is the reasons why? And he was like, no, I love being in that world of martial arts, but I also want to be an actor. I want to try serious stuff. I want to try see what I can do. So she put him into acting schools in Massachusetts, in New York, in LA. So he tried all these different schools, gain better knowledge of the acting world without the martial arts element, because he was still studying that consistently, but he didn't know. He wanted more substance as an actor. He wanted to understand the processes and the workings out of how you can express emotion, and it helped him channel that anger a lot better than just the martial arts could. He found a new outlet, a way of dealing with his grief, of his angst, of his moving back to another country, that he being moved out of his home where he considered home twice. Going back.
It's passion. It's passion, and it's his passion. It's not his father's. It's not his mother's. It's his and his alone. There has to be something on his shoulders. He is the son of Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
It's got to hold some weight.
Yeah, he only ever wanted to be known as himself, and that's something he's quoted as saying, I want to be known for being me, which is completely understandable. And it's not something you see from Nepo babies anymore. Like, Nepo babies, I know, is a more recent term. Nepo babies, we're seeing a hell of a lot of them these days. The parents have been enacting, the kids have sort of been brought up in that world, so they just naturally fall into it. But they're always in a better position than their parents were, not just financially, but mentally when going into the business, because the parents would have had to possibly have gone through the casting couch. would have had to have gone through some really heinous nonsense to get to where they are now, whereas these kids get bang. Oh, you're the daughter of Jamie Lee Curtis. You're the
You're
son of Alec
protected.
Baldwin. You're this person.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't possibly put them through that shit, so they can get straight in through the back door. And it's shit, but it's true. It
It
nepos
is.
across the planet, regardless of what work.
Oh, absolutely. We've
you're
talked
in.
about it before, but we
Yeah.
have I mean, I have an opinion where there's some very hard-working Nepo babies out there.
Mhm.
Sean Astin is one of them. You know, they might have gotten their foot in the door, but it's them who managed to open it.
Yeah.
But there
And I
is a
do
lot who
believe that's
don't.
yeah, I believe it's the case with Brandon. He just wanted to create his own path.
Yeah.
And the things that I thought to myself, what there's so much darkness that's we're about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to, because I looked into things that Brandon liked.
Oh, brilliant.
I wanted to look at some positives before we get into the whole
Bleak.
thing. He always joked that he said he was a heavy smoker, and
Yes, was he? He chained it on an interview I watched.
and he said he had a huge caffeine addiction. And when they said to him, well, aren't they both? He was like, no, caffeine's going to kill me, not my smoking. He said, caffeine's my vice. I like to only have one. And he was constantly joking about things like that. Whereas, you know, and like he was proper belly laughing during this interview, which I thought was lovely. He loved reading. And one of his favourite authors was Hunter S. Thompson.
Wow.
So random, but for people who don't know who Hunter S. Thompson is, there is a movie that came out, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which Johnny Depp played Hunter S. Thompson in that.
He was very good.
He is a journalist, and he wrote books. So if you want to read,
Gonzo journalist.
if you want to go and read some absolute fucking batshit stuff about a man who was off his tits for 99% of the time, go read some Hunter S. Thompson stuff or watch Fear and Loathing. I mean, okay, Fear and Loathing isn't literally
It's not, but
an
it's
autobiography, but it'll
but
give
it
you a rough idea of who
but
he was.
what it is, it's a friend paying tribute to another friend the best way he knows how.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It is nothing offensive about it whatsoever. It's just a fucking wild ride. He was off his tits the majority of his life, and I feel like Johnny Depp did a fucking good job of bringing him to
100%.
life on the screen.
One of his favourite pastimes was going hiking and camping with his friends.
I can imagine him being a little hippie at heart.
Yeah, he just liked outdoors. He just liked being outside. It was like he didn't like the whole being cooped up thing. So he needed out. And one of his all-time favorite films was A Clockwork Orange.
Why?
I think it's because the level of batshittery and this. If he's reading Hunter S. Thompson,
That's true.
He has a specific mindset when it comes to.
I say why. It's because I can't. There's something about it that I can't put my head into, because if I did, I'm not coming out of that film. There's a lot of deep-rooted mental health issues in that movie that I am just not prepared to discover myself. So I say why in that I know what that movie holds. So yeah, you're
I
probably
think it's
right.
just very far removed. When you look at Hunter S. Thompson and you look at Clockwork Orange and how far removed they are from the life of a guy that's working hard in Hollywood, who's the son of Bruce Lee, who's working doing martial arts and trying to carve his way out as an actor, and their stuff is
It
just
paints such a different picture.
So far removed. But he said to the day he died, his only regret, and he said, I don't have any, but my only regret was not being able to spar with my dad when I was old enough to be able to learn from him.
Yeah.
He said, you know, I was 8. I could take on so much, but at 8, you think you've got your dad forever.
You do.
He said, so, yeah.
That's absolutely, that's so lovely. I love learning about him.
And he was also this is kind of the sad intro into the thing.
I'm gonna do it.
The sad thing about it was that he was in real life engaged to Eliza, and him and Eliza were due to be married just a few weeks after The Crow had finished filming. So from death, a few weeks after his death.
So the movie itself was ready to wrap. They literally had a couple of, and I say a couple of scenes to do, and a lot of them were exterior shots where he didn't act, there was going to be no dialogue in. They were very fortunate in that respect. But on the 31st of March, 1993, it all went terribly wrong.
Yep.
However, could have all been very much avoided. So, the scene. Everyone feels like they've got an idea of what the scene is and where it is.
You're all wrong.
We're going to tell you exactly where it is.
Yeah.
It's the flashback scene when he walks into the apartment and the gang's there. They're attacking Shelley. Now, in the movie, you see Tintin throw a knife at him and he gets pinned up against the door.
Frame, I think, or the door.
Yeah.
It's like
That is the original idea for the shot.
Yeah.
There wasn't even going to be a gun in this shot. And if Lance Anderson, like Dan was talking about earlier, having the prosthetics ready in place to be able to pin him up against the wall, they had all that ready, which is why Lance he does put a little bit of responsibility on himself, because the whole gun scene was so lazy.
Yeah.
It was such a lazy thing for them to do because they were trying to speed things up. They were really on the verge of filming, like finishing this film. And this is what really upsets Lance, and it put a lot on him as well, that they worked so hard for this rig in his shoulder for this knife, and they ended up going with the gun scene. That's what they were going to do.
Yeah.
The gun was
I got it. A 6-shooter 44 Magnum Smith & Wesson model 629.
And as you've just said that, it's just appeared in front of me. Yeah, which was held by the actor Michael Massey.
Who played Fun Boy.
Who played Fun Boy. Who I didn't know until recently had actually died himself. Did not know.
Has he? I didn't know he died.
2016, he died of cancer. So yeah, Michael Massey has the gun, and as Brandon Lee walks through the door, he takes his cue and fires what he thinks is a blank gun, because that's all they deal with. They only deal with blanks. There is no reason for a live round to be in there. Unfortunately, it was. It was a lodged old live round.
See, now this is the right. This, when you start looking into this, this is the one thing that has been butchered and debated, and is the most widely changed fact of this whole thing.
Oh yeah, because it's like it was a bit of shrapnel. It was a bit of
a lot of people think it was a live round, but when they discuss it in Shudder, in that documentary, I went to YouTube and watched a couple of videos about the discharging of the weapon in the situation, that in the different situations they said it was.
I started watching that and got bored.
It's a lot. Basically, what they finally think happened was, when you go onto a movie set, you have your blanks and your dummy rounds. They're the two types of ammo they load into a gun. So the dummy rounds will technically fire a projectile, but it
creates the illusion of the projectile.
It creates a projectile, so it will leave a mark. They are fired in controlled situations. So what happened was, the dummy round was fired earlier on when they used the gun for a different scene. They loaded the now let me get this right. They loaded the blanks into the mag, or the revolver chamber, whichever one it was. And when they fired the blank had enough gunpowder in it, because the blank makes the explosion out the end of the gun. The blank's the one that makes it look like there's recoil. It fires at around roughly 30 to 50,000 psi, a blank, and it shot the projectile that was lodged in the barrel out and shot Brandon in the stomach. I don't know why I keep saying Brendan. I do apologize. Brandon in the stomach. Now, the two there's conflicting stories about this, but nobody has ever received any blame for this again. Like, it wasn't like, we're not talking Alec Baldwin Rust here. There's no big trial. There was no.
No, I mean, there was a trial, but it had nothing to do with the actual gunsmith who they had on set at the time. However, there was a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah. Now,
And
some of the
yeah,
stories were that they were so overworked
yeah, that was one of the
by
finger
the
points.
by the studio that the union guy who was the armorer on set was sent home early
Yeah.
because he'd worked over hours. So they had a secondary local guy come in who was an armorer. They don't know whether he was just as overworked, and he presumed that the other guy checked the barrel, or he didn't check the barrel because he was tired, or there's
There
many
was,
many different
yeah,
things that they're saying that happened that led up to it. But the official line is that no one checked the barrel. The gun was then pulled up, and even the angle that Funboy Michael Massey shut the gun at wasn't the original angle they were even going to shoot that scene at, because they had
yeah,
to remove the camera and Michael into a different position because they couldn't fit
it's because they need to see them
yeah,
in the shot to get the impact of how many people are there and that they've got Shelley.
yeah. So
So that's why the angle changes.
and that's the thing. Had they have not firstly changed the angle, it would never have hit Brandon
It
anyway.
wouldn't have, no,
And
no.
so I saw in this YouTube video, they actually show them fire a gun, the same make, in the same circumstances, with the dummy round lodged in the barrel and the blank behind it, and firing it and showing how far that projectile got pushed into a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And you can see there was no coming back from that. And if you did, you were that was a miracle. It was an
Yeah.
absolute miracle.
Yeah, you have been resurrected back from the dead, basically.
Well, you were the pro, yeah.
I watched a it was an old True Hollywood story. It was the backstage. E used to do backstage things on movies, and there's a lot of where the interviews come from with Brandon, and it's so spooky because clearly he's talking about the movie, but it's also his death is being talked about at the same time. So you get clips of Brandon talking about The Crow, which coincides with death, that also that we're talking about his death. It's so spooky. But there was one woman who was Lance Anderson does not particularly like talking about this. It broke him. The producer guy who was on clearly did not want to talk about this, but she did. When the shot went off, Brandon just hit the floor, and everyone waited for that moment for him to stand up, and that moment never came. And so everyone, now Brandon's, bearing in mind, this is a room. This is an actual set build that has been done. The only way to get out of that room is the door. Brandon is next to the door, and people got obviously it was the medic who shouted over after this when everyone went deadly silent because he'd hit the deck in a way that they didn't expect it to happen, and the medic shouted over, "Brandon, you're okay? You all right?" Right, he's not responding. Boom, there was straight in. But they asked everyone to clear the room. They had to walk over him. They had to step over him to get out of the door. There was no other way around it. She went to step over, and he made such an impression on every single person he worked with. She was an assistant to a somebody. It wasn't like, this is how well he knew everyone. He made it a thing to go out of his way to be nice to every single person who was working on that movie, regardless of your rank. It didn't matter where you stood if you were working on this movie, you were part of that family. They were absolutely heartbroken. And then he gets rushed to hospital where have you seen that? Have you seen the lady who at the hospital who has to tell them that he's passed away?
No, I knew that he was in surgery for 6 hours because it happened in the early hours of the morning, and by 12 p.m. they'd pronounced him dead.
The lady at the hospital who came out gave Tammy Faye Baker a run for her fucking money when it came down to makeup and hair. Jesus wept. It was up here. as I
We're
pet.
talking about the original kind of Karen hair and the
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
this looks like it's imagine your stereotypical evangelicus look.
Yeah, I know.
TV evangelicus look.
Yeah.
That's what she looked like. And she had to announce it. And now I'm trying to take this serious and like, fuck is going on with your hair? It's fucking huge.
The higher
Yeah,
the hair, the closer to God.
exactly. When she was like, and yes, and Brandon Lee died, and I was like, yeah, I can't not take you seriously at all. Move on. Move on.
No, it's, I heard it was either Michael or Lance that said on the documentary that when they looked over, they saw there was blood,
A
and they
lot.
knew, Lance especially knew there was not
Lance
supposed to
knew.
be any blood. He
No.
knew there wasn't, especially where it was coming from. It didn't make sense to where the squib packs had been put and all that sort of thing. So he couldn't. He was like, because
So confused.
this is how quick it turned around the idea of how he was going to be that scene was going to be shot. Like you said, they worked so hard on the rig that they choreographed it. They knew what was going to happen. They had that down. They changed the scene and they had like half an hour to figure it out. They hadn't even done a dry run of the gun, like to fire the gun so that Michael could get an idea of where it was or anything like that. They didn't even really plot. They did a quick plotting of where they all needed to be, hence why they moved the cameras and moved the positioning, because they need, like you say, they needed to get the wider scope in. But had that have not been so rushed, and had that have been thought through properly,
Still be here.
I think he'd still be here.
He'd
Because
still be here.
obviously they would have fired the gun and realised that,
oh shit, that's wrong. Or they could have just stuck with the original plan with the knife, which is what they actually end up using in the end because they've got no other fucking choice.
yeah, because a lot of people do believe that they used his death scene in the film.
They did not.
No, they didn't. No, they
They
didn't.
did not.
Out of respect
Sorry.
for his mum and Eliza, they would never do that.
No, not at all. This was a very tight knit crew. Very tight knit crew. They were not going out. If they were I know there's a lot of finger pointing, especially when it comes to the overworking, but there is nothing. I don't see. This is not Landis neglect. And I was going to say something else and I had to stop myself. But this is not their neglect. This is not like a John Landis neglect. This is it's such a passion project that I feel time becomes irrelevant. But obviously that doesn't become irrelevant on your body because you need to take breaks. What got people was, and what got Lance more than anything, was how he fell. Because he was meant to fall backwards. No, he was meant to fall forwards. He fell backwards. And they were like, well, that's a different choice. And Lance went, that's not a choice. Something's happened. Because because of how close he worked with Lance, he wouldn't not do what Lance told him to do. And especially where he needed to be. So when he fell in the wrong direction. So Dan's right that it was Linda and what's it?
Eliza.
Linda and Eliza, who because they were ready to shut this down. This was done. We are done. We are done with this movie. It is getting put in the bin, figuratively. And we are
Paramount
done.
basically wanted to shelf it. Paramount was like,
we're done.
I know we're near to finishing, but we're not investing any money in this. We can't see how we can go forward without him to finish this film. We're just going to stick it on the shelf and leave it there.
But the family begged, and only because the family, they're not begged, but they made them very aware that this was his passion. He was very proud of this movie, and to finish it would be part of his legacy. It would be his legacy. So they did, with very reluctance, they did. As we
the
talked
Weasel
about,
brothers stepped in, didn't they?
yes, they did. Well, as Dan mentioned earlier, the stunt double got a makeover that scared the absolute living shit out everyone. I will actually, on our socials, I will put the Polaroids that were taken of the stunt double, and put them beautiful haunting Polaroids of Brandon in the makeup, the original, when they started working on the makeup. There is some beautiful shots of that man. When Lance was showing them in that program, I was like, oh my god, that's breathtaking. It doesn't even look real. I'll put them up so you can see what they were working with, because it's haunting, and you see him. So here's where where they had to start making their changes. So obviously the scene had to change, and they went with the original knife in the shoulder. That is Brandon Lee. The stumbling forwards, the interactions with the gang, that's not. That's the stunt double. The there is a very there is a when Brandon comes back from the dead, or I should say Eric comes back from the dead, he takes a walk into his apartment and he's shivering because obviously he's got no top on. And you see a very disjointed looking picture of Brandon Lee only for a few seconds. Is because of they use CGI in order to create Brandon Lee walking through that door, because they needed to be able to see him, and they couldn't use the stunt double because the stunt double doesn't have the mask on. The only time you see the stunt double is when he has the mask on. It's not so they took a scene from him where you can actually see it twice. When he's walking down the alleyway and you
Yeah.
see him hunched over, that's the same image they used as he goes through the door. And if you pay attention to it now, you can see it.
Yeah, they superimpose the face, don't they?
Yeah.
It's a technique that they use, and I know I harp on about these guys a lot, but if anybody's interested in the minutiae of CGI and how they use it in films, and go watch the Corridor Crew on YouTube, and they talk a lot about this thing called rotoscoping. And now rotoscoping is the technique they used where they technically cut out Brandon's face,
and just
then superimposed it. Now, by today's standards of computers,
easy.
You think, all right, that's easy.
You can probably do that on your phone.
Yeah. 1993, no. You're working, you haven't even got Windows 95 at that point. You're on
exactly
some big old boys, trying to make this work. And it's a combination of layering films over other films, as well as trying to blank out the original. It's so complicated how it was done back then. And by today's standards, yeah, it's a bit janky, but by 1993 standards, it weren't half bad.
I've never been able to notice until it was pointed out to us.
Yeah.
So I've never been able to notice it. That whole sequence there where he's changing into the makeup, that is a lot of stunt work done by the stunt guy in there, because you don't see his face. If you're not seeing his face, the likelihood is you're not seeing him. There is a exterior shot that they used on the roof of him playing a guitar and smashing it up. That is actually a woman. That's a woman standing on top of there who just by happen to chance have the same hairstyle as Brandon Lee. As all it is. She had the height and she had the hair. And they were like, we need you. They really wanted to put this scene in because I don't know. Just because it is pretty beautiful, especially with the the red sky backdrop and everything. And that's really it.
The film itself, the budget for it was originally 15 million, which for a relatively unknown comic book to movie thing was quite a lot of money from the studio to give to them. So when the film had run for its 52 days, technically the budget had pretty much been used except for a few reshoots that they needed to do, which were the ones that ended up being done after obviously Brandon's death. Miramax, because like I said, Paramount shelved it. They said, no, we're not touching it. Someone else can have it, or it can just stay there. We don't want it. And like you say, Brandon's mum and fiance both campaigned to get the film continued to make. So the Weasel brothers, aka the Weinsteins, stepped up and said, you know what, Miramax will take it, Dimension Films will take it. Now this is a surprising move on their behalf, because they are not known for not exploiting people. That's one of the main, that's how people really know Bob and Harvey. That's their whole thing, their MO, as most of you well known, allegedly or not. It's well documented. They did not in any way exploit Brandon's death for publicity on this film, which is so surprising. It is so surprising considering who they are and what their track record is. They bought the film off of Paramount. They invested a further 8 million to get the masks made, the reshoots done, the CGI replacement.
To basically polish it up. There's one change that they had to make the story work. So bearing in mind, Dan mentioned about the Skull Cowboy earlier, which I'm just gonna have to tell you all now. I lost my fucking mind. You got bearing in mind, I am a fan of the comic books and have been probably when that saw this film. That's probably where my love of the comics came. Don't get us wrong. I'm not that good that I saw the comic first, and it just doesn't work like that for me. So I knew about the Skull Cowboy. What I didn't know was that the Skull Cowboy was actually is. I have covered this movie before on another podcast that I do, and I didn't even know about it then. So to know it was him as well, to know that he was, oh gosh, what was his name? I'm saying him like
Michael
I'm
Berryman.
Michael Berryman, that's it. I was like, oh my God. And again, I will get you the set pictures that were taken of him in the Skull Cowboy costume, because if they put this in, fucking mind blow. The Skull Cowboy is very much so the crow is the advisory to the person.
Hmm.
He's the guide. He's there. Make sure we're on the right side of what we're meant to be doing, kind of thing. You've got a purpose, we're going to follow that purpose. I want to help you. I want to help you get to that purpose. The Skull Cowboy is there to basically is to do the same thing, but not in the best way.
Yeah, to fuck you up
He
along your way. Yeah.
pretty much, yes. But they had to take out because there was one pivotal moment. It's the end scene when he's going back into the. So when Brendan comes out of the grave, or Eric, the first person he sees is the Skull Cowboy. That had been shot.
Hmm.
It was when he was going back in that they couldn't, and there was another part as well that they hadn't done to where it would never have made sense. So he gone. What they then do is get the actress who plays Sarah to do a voiceover from the beginning of the film and the end of the film.
Yeah.
And that's the additional part that they put in to try and because the Skull Cowboy was talking. It's the legend of the Crow, and he was there to tell you of this legend. He's now no longer there. Sarah is going to be your guide.
Yeah, he was like, if you've ever seen Ghost Rider, he was your I'm gonna call him Wild West because that's what Family Guy call him. Um, but
Would you well?
um, oh my God, what's his name? Sam,
Mm?
Big Tash, Sam. You know in Ghost
Oh,
Rider.
yes, I know who you mean. Is he the guy from Yellowstone?
Yes, got the
No.
really lovely voice. He could talk to you for hours, and you just
Oh, I know who you mean. Sam. Blah, 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 blah.
him anyway. I know
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself because I'm, but um, he's like the Skull Cowboy was like a really naughty version of who Sam was to Ghost Rider. He was like his. I know
Elliot.
Sam Elliott was the original Ghost Rider, and he was passing it down to him. But he was when you watch Ghost Rider, he's like the narrator in the
Yeah.
film. You know, that sort of thing. That was his job was to guide Nicolas Cage into clearly being 40 years older than the character he was portraying. But we won't go there.
No.
But yeah, the Skull Cowboy's job was to narrate the Crow's purpose and to
Yeah.
explain to Eric
Because
what his duty was. And
we can't hear the Crow,
Mhm.
but we can hear the Skull Cowboy. Michael Berryman in the Shudder program was so gracious about this.
Yeah.
He knew this was not about him.
Mhm.
This movie had to be finished
Yeah.
because again, it was Brandon's, this was his movie, and the ego is completely taken out of that man. He does not show one bit that his past got cut. Fuck it, okay, my past got cut. I don't care. I
Mhm.
lost a friend.
Yeah. Because he
That's the
does
bigger
count.
picture here.
Yeah, he counts Brandon as a very, very good friend.
This
And
is the impact Brandon had on people, though. He only met him on that movie, and they consider each other genuine friends because that's how he made people feel.
and the sad thing about it as well is when you look at the other cast members as well, like you forget there's so many people in this, like Ernie Hudson.
Exactly what Anne said last night when we were watching. He went,
Everybody forgets that he played the captain, the police sergeant, whatever rank he was, the policeman. Then you've got Tony Todd. People
yeah.
forget that Tony Todd was in it, and sadly we lost him last year, or beginning of this year. I can't remember, end of last year, beginning of this year. I think
It was last year, but we do have his last movie coming out this month with
which is Bloodlines, and I
yeah.
have to say, again, it feels a bit Rob Zombie, Sid exploitative to me. I know
I
there's
can
reasons for it, why Rob did it with Three
Sid.
from Hell, with
Yeah.
Sid. They wanted to wrap up his storyline.
They didn't need.
But it felt a bit exploitative to me. And
Yeah.
when you do see Tony in Final Destination, it's not the Tony we are all used to
No,
seeing. So
no,
I
don't
want people to be very prepared that he was quite ill
very,
and no one
very
knew about
poorly.
it. So
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shock when you see him. So
it is. But again, I feel like he made it. He made it. He obviously had his reasons behind doing it, and we should honor that.
yes, yeah. There is a little bit of a, they reckon, a running curse in the reboot situation as well.
But that they're all shit.
Well, they went through too many. They said they went through too many actors to get to where they finally came to. The reboot had been in the works for the best part of 11 years at this point. So in 2013, they started talks into doing the remake reboot, and the cast, the person that they had for the original casting was Luke Evans.
Yeah,
2017, Luke Evans. So
yeah.
I can't get past the fact that he is Gaston. He will always be Gaston to me. You cannot tell me that that man is not the real Gaston.
No, I totally, utterly agree with you. He did a really good ITV drama, The Pembrokeshire Murders.
Yeah.
So good.
He does
Isn't this?
comedian well. He
Oh,
really does, but
he
Gaston.
is. Yeah, I get that, and I love him when he sings a Gaston song. It's just brilliant. Is this where Jason Momoa is attached?
Yes, because then when you go to 2014 to 2017,
Uh-huh.
they were going to have Ryan Gosling,
No. Oh,
Bradley
actually,
Cooper,
no.
and this one puzzles me slightly, Nicholas Hoult. He's a great actor.
We like Nicholas, but for this,
I'm not
you want to
sure
you
if,
want to carry a legacy on, and you want to put Nicholas Hoult in there?
I mean,
Eh,
great in Renfield, great in Warm Bodies, great,
we love
you know,
him.
Nosferatu. The guy knows what he's doing.
Mm.
But it's not the kind of thing I see him.
We're spoiled. We're very spoiled because we
Yeah,
had such an amazing image when it comes to Eric from Brendan Lee. It's been tried to be replicated quite a few times, and the YouTube video I watched the other day was very generous with its descriptions of the movies that followed.
yeah.
City of Angels, I know Dan has her feelings on it. I personally like it. I just like
I
Vincent Perez.
Well, this is the thing. In 17, Momoa was supposed to be the next option, but from 17 to 23, when they started making the Skarsgård version,
Yeah.
he dropped out because of allegedly the whole thing with Amber and the whole bullshittery that was surrounding Aquaman and all the backstage nonsense and the Johnny Depp nonsense of it all. And he was like, "Oh, I can't be bothered to do anything. I'm going off and doing my own thing." And then at which we found out he was also getting separating from Lisa Bonet at that point. So it was all too much for him. So then they chose Bill and they went down that direction of something that genuinely I don't understand. I mean, it may well have been a character-driven option in the comic books, and I'm not aware of this version of the story. I don't feel like it was. I mean, you're looking at a skinny Post Malone meeting a woman in a mental health institution of some kind, and then they run away, and then yeah, it's just nothing like The Crow. It's not. It's not. It's not. I think it's the best way
Yeah.
to say that.
Yeah. I don't know when it comes down to more recent of the stories. I don't know where it lies, like how
Yeah.
it lies. It's been a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
I
But
get the imagery, I get the silhouette, I get where they're going with the look, but I'm sorry. I understand that you want to be respectful to the original. They're not gonna mind you using a gun. Why the fuck did you decide to use a katana?
there's so many questions I had after watching that film.
They
So
wouldn't use a
many.
gun. They wouldn't use guns in the movie
Yeah, they said it was
because
disrespectful to Brandon's memory, and it's just like, oh,
no,
get in the bin.
no.
Like that's not that. What's disrespectful to his memory is not holding up the key values that he had when making the original, which was hard work,
Dedication.
the martial arts of it all.
Hmm.
You know, because he does use what he's learned and what he's been taught
Massively.
massively in that film. Whereas Bill, See, this is the thing that annoys me. When you look at the cast of the new one, Bill is a fantastic character actor.
We all know that. There's no denying it.
Regardless of Danny Houston's cousin and their ties to the Ray, allegedly, he is an amazing actor. Danny Houston, you know,
Comes
he
from
is.
good
He is.
stock.
So there is the FKA Twigs though. I don't get it, but they had the potential of having a good cast. I don't think the story let them down. I don't think the casting let them down. I think it was just because it was done under the guise of something that was so well loved, and they tried to use that to the Crow as a blanket to try and sell the movie.
No. Yeah. Do not use a tragedy that not only ended a life, it ended somebody else's as well. Because we always forget Michael Massey is the man who holds the gun.
Yeah.
He is the person who took Brandon out of this world, and it broke him. I watched an interview with him, and it was just before he died. And he said, because the interview was like, "Do you mind talking about it?" He says, "I don't not mind talking about it because I've done a lot of work to get to where I am now, but I don't want it to be a focal point all the time. I'll say it now. I'll answer your questions now, but I don't particularly want this to. Once I've said my bit, I want us to move on." And she was totally respectful of that. And she asked how he was. We all know how Brandon was because it didn't end very well. But it was him. How was he? And he went, "It broke us. What was I meant to do?" He went into hiding. He thought the world hated him. He was absolutely a shell of a man. Addiction becomes a huge part of his day to day. But eventually he did start to pull himself around. He went back into some work. But his life was never, ever the same again. It's tragic. It's a massive, massive tragedy on so many parts.
But it begs the question, doesn't it? Like, whose responsibility is it ultimately?
Well, Linda wanted that answer as well. And this is where Linda and the family took the studio to court. Now, it wasn't the horrible, creepy brothers. It was Paramount. They took Paramount because it was under Paramount at the time. Because the Weasel brothers don't come in until after the event. So they took them to court for an undisclosed amount. So that means that we'll never find out who was responsible for what happened. But Brandon is buried next to his father in Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. Beautiful. I think did they have the Forever Flame?
I don't know. I know I've seen it on Scott on tape, and maybe even the Grim Life have covered it. I've seen the graves, so I know what they look like.
Yeah, Bruce is it's marble. It's and they are right next to each other. Bruce's is kind of like a burgundy red, like a
I think
stone.
and I think they've put up like not a walkway, but like a little wooden area now around the two of them as well. So
yeah, they are right next to each other. He had a very small funeral, private funeral, attended only by close friends and family and some business associates. Keith the Sutherland was there. Lou Diamond Phillips, the Hoff. I know.
Well, that's unexpected.
Steven Seagal.
Martial arts, I get that one.
And David Carradine.
Again, martial arts.
David was going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I have actually seen Steven Seagal in real life. The seagull walked past me at London Film and Comic Con, and I've never seen a man look so much like a tangerine in my entire life. He was a tangerine that had, he's not what you think he's going to look like. And that's the best way for me to explain Steven Seagal. However you think you've seen him in Under Siege and all those other action movies and martial arts films that he's been in, he does not. I mean, he looked about 5'6". I know he wasn't, but you know, in your head, Brandon's 6 foot.
He looks like a giant.
Yeah, he looks 6 foot. You know, There's times when you meet somebody and they completely surprise you with how tall they are. And I'm going to drop this clanger because I've got to get it out. I met Dwight from The Office. I met Rainn Wilson, and if you follow the shop on Facebook, you would have seen the photos. Rainn Wilson surprised me how tall he was. I didn't realize he's a good 6'3".
You are tiny though.
I'm 5'3", right? I'm small. I am aware of this. But Jesus Christ, I never had him down. I always had Steve Carell as being 5'5",
Taller.
7.
Is
I
he
thought
tall?
it was tiny, Steve Carell. But when you put him next to Rainn Wilson, he's a lot taller than I think I've always thought he was. Because Rainn, I never had him down as being 6'3". So my comparison to things is Rob's 6'2". My fiance 6'2". I'm 5'3". It's hilarious. I'm aware of the height difference. He can use me as a leaning post if he so wishes. But it's a shock when you see how tall people are. And Steven Seagal, not very tall at all. Not very tall at all.
It looks like he's put it all in his back, like he's like hunched over, like, doesn't stand up straight. Yeah, Dan messages at the weekend and just went, I've met Rainn Wilson. That's it.
Yep, I've got my autograph and my quote. And when I told him I was having it tattooed, he said to me, "Oh, where are you having it?" So I showed him, and then I said to him about
where he is.
And then he was like, "Oh my God." He's like, who else am I in company with? And I showed him, and he went, "Hang on a minute, I've got to film this." He got out his phone and he wanted me to talk him through the entire sleeve. And then he goes he goes to me at the end of the film, "So what do you call this? Does it have a name, this sleeve?" And I was like, "Yeah, the Lovable Losers." And he went, "The what? The what? You can get out." And he was like proper like berating me in front of everybody, but I couldn't stop laughing. It was just really funny.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I ended up getting the quote. Oh God, the face is
The face.
the groin, the eyes are the groin of the face. I can't remember. I've gone
That's it.
blank on it now. It's that one. And yeah, so I'm gonna get that tattooed with Rain's signature. And I asked him first. So anybody who wants to get a signature off of a famous person, do ask their permission, because I think it's only common courtesy. You technically don't have to, but I just think it's common courtesy. And he was so excited that someone wanted it. He was going to sign my arm as well as my piece of paper. I was like, "No, I'm working, it will come off." I said, "I'm going to have a shower when I get home." He's like, "Yeah, but if I do it in permanent pin." I'm like, "No, well," I said, "that's really nice, but no." I said, "It's okay."
The only way that's going on is if you carve it into my arm.
But yeah, my whole point in that dropping that in was because I wanted to, but also because height. My comprehension of people I meet, everybody is shorter than I think they're going to be normally. Except for Alan Tudyk. He surprised me how tall he was, and I did tell him because I embarrass myself sometimes with nonsense that come out of my mouth. Or Tudyk, sorry, is that how we're saying it? I say Tudyk, but it's Tudyk. And I said to him, "You're the tallest person I've met today." Yeah, well done, Dan. So
well, it's not as good as what you did to Neil Marshall. I can tell the viewers what you did to Neil Marshall.
I think I embarrassed myself many times in that one. So I really, when I saw him in real life and I waved at him like Forrest Gump, yeah,
yeah. Hi.
Oh,
I'll be doing it next week at HorrorCon, because there's no doubt you'll hear across the floor, "Finchy!"
You know what? That was a memory I buried about Neil. So thanks for bringing that one back.
You are so welcome.
I'm going back into
I'll
counselling.
never ever forget it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Keith Sutherland surprises me. I don't know why. He was shorter than when I met him in real life. He's short, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know why that one surprises me. But then I suppose the Nepo Baby Brat Pack, 90s Brat Pack. He was part of that, wasn't he?
Lou Diamond Phillips, though.
Young Guns.
Ah, okay.
But then Brandon didn't have anything to do with Young Guns, to my knowledge.
No.
So unless he was hanging around with Keith,
He might have been. He might have just been.
He was friends with Lou first.
Well, I think he's from Seattle, isn't he? If he's buried in Seattle, he's from Seattle, so he's part of the Seattle scene.
Yeah.
So I think it's the 90s. This is the era of music, grunge music. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Hoff. Do you want to explain the Hoff?
that one's so far fucking removed for me. I'm like,
I understand Steven Seagal, David Carradine. Like I say, they worked together. He knew his dad. There was a Bond.
He worked even with Lundgren, so I mean, I'd understand Lundgren over Hoff.
Yeah.
Hoff's a confusing choice for me, but obviously they had a
The Hoff's a
relationship.
confusing choice for everything.
Oh, well, he was Star-Lord's dad in Star-Lord.
He's also Nick Fury in.
Yeah, the original Nick Fury.
Yeah, he's the original Nick Fury.
I never
Yes,
want to watch that film.
I never want to see it again.
I never want to see it.
My eyes do not want to be taken into this. We lost a rising star. You stupid cat. Sorry. I have a tin R2D2 that's sitting on top of a Darth Maul, ceramic Darth Maul, and he has just swiped it off the side.
It just made a really weird noise, like someone else was talking down the microphone. That was really
I'm
strange.
so sorry. It's a tin that's just hit off my heart just. Hold on. No, sorry, it hasn't jumped too far. Yes, you'll not learn his fucking lesson. He's just gone back. We lost a massive rising star. I don't think we appreciate how big he was going to be, because we lost our original Neo.
Yeah.
He was Neo in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And because he passed, it got given to Keanu Reeves. But Brandon Lee was going to be. This was going to launch him. This was so going to launch him. Like, The Crow was going to do well, because, like Dan said, there was no campaign whatsoever on watch the movie Brandon Lee died in.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. This
it's
did well on its own merit.
It did, and it still made 50.8 million at the box office.
Mhm.
Considering it was only on a budget of 23 in the end when you put it all together from the two studios. 23, so it doubled plus.
Yeah.
And horror movies never traditionally got, and they still don't compete with your blockbusters, because we are a weird genre. We are movie lovers, and we will go and we will show up for our films.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not enough of us out there that there is, because they're not family friendly. You can't take the entire family to go and watch you can take them to watch Avengers, but you can't go and take the entire family to watch this. No. You probably could sit in front of a TV and get away with showing younger kids this now, because it's nothing really.
No, it's not. But this was the movie that changed lives. Like, this is the John. Like, imagine at the time you've got this, The Craft. Like, the whole aesthetic of this movie is just, it started to change. Especially me. This is the start of my goth era. This is my my goth greeting card. Welcome.
It's where we all started to find. I was 13, 14 when this film came out, and it's where you start to find that. Hang on a minute. I've known I've always been a bit weird, but there's something that clicks with me.
Yeah. It's because it's not so severe. Like, the first time I realized that I was very different to this world was when Elvira was introduced to me, and I was like, oh, I want to be her. But it seemed very unrealistic for, a young girl in the Northeast living in a mining village. This didn't. This aesthetic, this look wasn't so far out of reach. I completely and utterly fell head over heels for this. Like, I went looking for my Pro stuff the other day. I can't find any of it, which really saddens us, because I had quite a bit. I had one of the first original bobbleheads. Remember them? Before Funko came in and took over.
Ugh.
I know. Oh my God, I say remember them. You sell them.
I don't like them. I don't have to like the bloody things.
No, not the Funkos. The bobblehead. I saw someone on the Instas saying they picked up a bobblehead, and I was like, oh my God, that's like the ones I used to get.
Yeah, we do quite a lot of the bobbleheads. We do. We've got Frankenstein, Wolfman, Bride.
That is real name
We
tag.
just got brand new one in. We've got Cornholio. We've got Saw. We've got Billy the Saw puppet. We've got Captain Spaulding. We've got a lot of Hot Topic exclusive ones. Killer Clowns. We've got lots of different Michaels. We've got an Elvira. We've got Regan from The Exorcist ones.
That's the one I've seen. I've seen that one.
So yeah, I prefer those because they just remind me of being a kid.
But that was the first collectible. Like, for outside of bigger pieces, it was affordable collectible. Like, I've still got his Blues Brothers ones.
Oh, blimey, there'll be worse something now.
Not in the condition they're in. I have no more on the subject. I do want to ask, unless you have something else,
No, I'm good.
is it a cursed movie, Dan?
Right. Okay. My answer to this is it's kind of an open-ended answer because do I think the movie's cursed? No. Do I understand why people think it is? Yes. Do I think it was a situation that could have been avoided due to budgetary constraints, overworking, exhaustion, just a series of unfortunate coincidences and events that led up to a
That moment.
tragedy, well, another like the worst kind of tragedy you can possibly have. Yeah, I just think it's a series of unfortunate. It's a lemony snicket all over it. It that's what it is.
Yeah.
As for the Lee curse, I don't want to disrespect the
No.
the traditions and the morals that are at the grassroots of beliefs, the belief system
Yeah.
of the Lee's family, because in Chinese tradition, they are very superstitious. They do believe in demons and curses and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if they say they were cursed, I have to believe that they were cursed because I do not know enough about
The heritage
the
there.
heritage and the culture
Yeah.
to be disrespectful enough to say no, they're not cursed, because I do not know. So
No.
as for the Lee curse, if they say they were, then yes, they were.
Yeah.
As for the movie, no, I just think it was just so many bad fucking things that happened, because
Yeah.
we all have those times in our lives, and I'm not equating to Brendan's death being as trivial as having a bad day. That's not what I mean. We all have times in our lives where just a succession of shitty things happen week after week or month after month, and it's like this domino effect that each one then just pushes another one to happen and another one and another one.
Yeah.
And it gets to build up to this really massive thing that ends up happening. And that's what I feel like this was.
Yeah.
It was so many things that happened in such a short amount of time, and there was no control. Everybody was tired. There was not enough money, or there was too much money and people weren't spending it. Whatever the circumstances were, I don't believe this film was cursed.
No.
Do you?
No, I do not. I feel like it's a series of unfortunate events. Again, I am with Dan on the on the Lee side of curses. Who are we to question any form of their beliefs when it comes down to their heritage? Because we don't know it. But when it comes to the movie, it's exactly the same as Poltergeist. It's a series of unfortunate things that happened, some incredibly tragic. It shouldn't define this movie because this movie stands on its own without having the tragedy attached to it. But unfortunately, forever until the end of time, even God knows how long, we are going to be talking about the legend that is the crow and the curse that followed it. That would have, I should have just ended it there. That would have sounded amazing. Such a great soundbite, and I've just ruined it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about it for eons because it's interesting conversation. It's no different than Poltergeist. It's interesting. It's been how many programs, videos have been made on this. I'm just happy that there's certain things that have been put to bed for us to tell yous about, because you will always find people saying, "Oh well, the shot when they shot him, it's still in the film." It's fucking not. This was a family unit of filmmaking. They are not going to put the death of one of their family members in the movie.
No, that no. Don't be
No,
silly, Billy. Don't be
don't
a
be
silly Billy.
exactly. And it's the whole, well, they had to get stunt doubles in. Johnny Depp was one of the stunt doubles. He was fucking not. No. It was a very lovely person who had an incredible hard job on his shoulders because he had to put the face of a dead man on. Essentially, he literally wore his face.
And everybody around him treated him
They didn't know how to treat him.
Yeah,
That poor man he was Brandon's stunt double. It wasn't a case of they just found him and went, oh, you look like him. He genuinely was his stunt double. You can see that. I think the thing that kind of helps is when there is certain scenes where you can clearly see that ain't Brandon Lee anymore. And this is like highly stunt double work. And I'm talking more about the shootout scene at the end.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stunt work done in there. And there's a lot of cases, if Brandon got hurt, production it would be bad. So the stunt guy comes, and you can clearly see, but it helps because we've already seen that silhouette earlier on with the makeup scene. That's not Brandon Lee. Just to bum you all out. Sorry, it's not. That whole scene is heartbreaking. Again, if you around that time of the movie, if you're not seeing his face, it's because you're not seeing him.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Honestly, this isn't like the Poltergeist. The Poltergeist one, we were riled up, like we were so angry, because there was a lot of miscarriages in that and just fucking, this is not like that. This is so, it's just sad. There's no other word to describe it. The fact that Brandon's gone, that's sad. Michael Massey had to like you can't even comprehend. You can't even comprehend what he went through.
And I can't even begin to comprehend what James went through.
No.
I mean, not only did he lose his Shelley, he then lost his Eric.
Yeah.
And it's like Eric was his conduit for his own grief.
Yeah, it was him. It's him.
And then he lost Eric, and he had to relive, not necessarily relive, but he had to go through all of that again. Now I've met James. He's a very quiet man.
And imagine.
So softly spoken. Like, not you take one look at him and you think he's going to be all brash and bawdy, and he just gives off this kind of, like, on first impressions to look at him, you think, oh, not what I expected. But then when he talks, he's just, like I said, he's so softly spoken. He's very much like Brandon in the respect of how Brandon, when he's interviewed, he's very eloquent, very softly spoken, very well put together. That's exactly like how James presented to me when I met him. So, it's like I say, when I tell you that I've met these people, again, I will go back for you new listeners. I don't tell you this to brag. It's not that. It's how I share my experience.
I love hearing about them.
But it's not from a place. No. It's for the new listeners. It's basically, with what I do, I know I am so incredibly lucky to be and fortunate to be in a position where I am able to meet people in movies, and work in the conventions. I still pay like everybody else. I don't get these.
Yeah, she does. No.
But my life sometimes is a bit of a fever dream sometimes, and it's hard for me to sort of sit back and go, I did that. It's weird now watching nearly every film me and Rob sit down and watch. We've usually met someone in the film, and it is a very strange feeling. It's bizarre.
At least you're having conversations about, oh, look, we've met him. When me and Anth watch a film and someone's died, I point out the dead. So,
I still do that.
Like last night when we were watching The Crow, and obviously I have lived in The Crow for God knows how many days now, and just been listening to non-stop any interview I could find on Brendan Lee I was listening to. I just wanted to hear him talk, because he's just, he's amazing. And as we're watching The Crow, I'm obviously pointing everything out. It's not him.
Yeah.
It's not him. That's a woman on there. And he just went, you really do know how to suck the joy out of a movie, don't you? I was like, yes, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
It's a skill. Yeah,
it's an absolute skill. I don't know if you have. Have you? I didn't know if you were going to, because it's such a very a deep subject matter but I'm kind of intrigued. Did you do the Route 666?
I did Jake's 666 degrees of separation, or whatever we're calling it.
We just changed the name. We just add whatever the name is at the time.
Add new words in it. I did, because I did it for Poltergeist, so I thought I might, I'll just follow the tradition. And by the way, Keith Coogan is aware that we do this. So
okay.
Right. Michael Wincott, who played Top Dollar, was in Alien Resurrection, aka Alien 4, as Elgin alongside Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Winona played Kim in Edward Scissorhands, which also featured Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Vincent had a small career, tiny little career. People don't really know who he is, Vincent Price. But he voiced a character called Professor Rattigan in The Great Mouse Detective.
He did.
Basil was voiced by Barry Ingram, who had a varied TV career, including playing Daniel O'Dell in Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation. Will Wheaton is most famous for playing Wesley Crusher in NG, but also played Joey Trotter in the 1991 masterpiece Toy Soldiers. His co-star, who played Snuffy, was none other than Keith Coogan, who played Brad in Adventures in Babysitting. Thank you.
I just want to go back to what you said at the beginning. How?
I'm friends with Keith on Facebook. And I know his
Of
wife.
course you are.
I know his wife Pinky as well, because we met in Rhode Island Comic-Con in 2018, and David Leslie basically set me up royally for when I went and met him, and I didn't know they'd met him first, and they basically told him that at their party, they had like an anniversary party. I sung the song from Adventures Babysitting Blues on stage, and they told him that he was going to wind me up. And basically when I stood there, I just forgot all the words. I forgot every word that came out of my mouth, and I was so confused because I couldn't fathom how he knew.
Yeah.
And like I said, it turned out that they'd told him in advance. I was like, fuckers. But yeah, so I sort of got talking to them, and they wanted to come over and start doing some English conventions and things like that. So there was a couple of emails going back and forwards between me and Pinky, and then became friends with them on Facebook. And Keith posts regularly anyway, and he put up a post about how it was something to do with how he was bringing something, like he was having a conversation with somebody and he managed to bring it back to Adventures in Babysitting. So I commented underneath that, well, I can do you one better. Every podcast this year that we've done since Nosferatu in January, every weekly episode I've brought back from that movie to Adventures in Babysitting. And he liked the comment, and he commented underneath, I'm going to have to listen to that now. I don't think he will, but it's just one of those things where
I hope he does, just to see that. Oh God, what was the one that really impressed us? There was one you went like down this absolute route. That one really impressed us. You managed to get Vincent Price in there.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to go down some route, because it was really easy to get from. Strangely, it was really easy to get from this film to Will Wheaton. So I wanted to add a few more Wheaton. I had to add a few more steps in there. So, but yeah. And if nobody's seen Toy Soldiers, go watch it. Andrew Divoff, the Wishmaster, plays.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
The song by Martika is quite a classic song.
I've seen it. That's saying something. Oh no, I am so pleased you did it, because like I said, it's been a bit of a bleak one, but it was one that we really wanted to do, because this year we are going to be doing a lot more on cursed movies. But not next week, we're not. No, next week. Want to tell the people what we're doing next week, Danielle?
Well, we are technically sticking in the Vincent Price camp, if we're looking at it from that point of view. Ooh. I tied that in well, didn't I? Didn't even know I was doing that. Dark Castle Entertainment, it's under the banner. We are going to do their first original screenplay movie, Ghost Ship. Oh yes. Carl Urban with a ponytail. It's an experience for all of us.
You never said Carl Urban was in this movie.
Yeah, Carl Urban with a ponytail. You've got oh god, Grey's Anatomy, Christina's fella that's an arsehole in real life.
Isaiah Washington.
Yeah, he's in it.
Pull that out me ass.
Yeah, Gabriel Byrne.
What? I love Gabriel Byrne.
Then there's two people from the ER. Her that dated George Clooney in ER. Gone blank on her name.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, she's lovely.
You've just mentioned George Clooney's name.
She was in The Good Wife. Julia.
Oh, yes. The hair, yes, I know who you mean.
And then her fellow that was the ambulance driver before she went with before she went off with George Clooney in ER.
Yeah, I know exactly who you mean.
It is, and then you've got Desmond Harrington in this as well, and Emily Brown in as well. So there's a hell of a cast in this movie.
You mentioned George Clooney there. Totally for part of my notes, I've just totally remembered. He was the campaigner for the gun props on movies. He's been an he is a huge actors advocate, and he worked with Linda to make sure that gun safety was taken fucking seriously. Because he says every time from when he started doing Industrial Dawn, they would hand him a gun and just expect him to use it, and he was like, "No, I'm not using that. I want to check it. I want you to stand with me, and I want to check it." Yeah, he was such a stickler. So he is a huge advocate. I don't think anyone realizes like he really is for the right in this world. He's a good man. Good man. Terrible Batman, but he was a good man.
Hey, look, he was in the
He wasn't a terrible Batman. It was just such unfortunate.
He was the Flash movie Batman as well at the end, wasn't he? As well as Keaton, which I've got to be honest, that movie was the biggest heap of dog shit I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. They rushed that so much. The CGI was atrocious, absolute joke. However,
CGI was atrocious. It was bloody. It made Harry Potter 1 look good.
Oh, honest to Christ, it looked like it was made on Windows 95, but it was the fact that it had Keaton and Batman that I had to go back and watch it because Keaton is my Batman. Keaton will always be my Batman. Like Kilmer's your Batman, Keaton's mine.
I lost my Batman.
I haven't lost him. I don't know where he is, mind, but you know he's out there somewhere.
It's on my jumper. He's on my jumper. He's sitting on my tit right now.
Well, I wasn't going to say, but
just for audio listeners, I'm wearing a Beetlejuice jumper, so it's not random like I have Michael Keaton on my boob.
I mean, each to their own, you know.
You know, yeah, it's been a tough one, but it's been a good one. It's been interesting to know and debunk and finally put to rest what actually happened on that fateful evening. I hate the line in The Crow where they're like, "Who gets married on Halloween?" I was getting, motherfucker, I will come for you.
Everybody I know, actually.
Yeah, including me, dick.
Yeah.
So yes, this has been The Crow Curse movie. Next week is Ghost Ship. We are on the Nerdy Up North. You can come and watch us on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel. The episode drops 8 o'clock every Monday. If you hit the notification bell, you will be notified that the episodes have been available for you to watch. The audio for that episode goes out on the same day, but you do have to search Monsters Up North podcast, not Monsters Up North. You'll be bitterly disappointed, but Monsters Up North podcast to find us. The links for Believe and Marvelous, Monsters Up North, and Nerdy Up North are where, Dan?
They are down there. Down there.
They're new.
Yeah,
we've
got Ghostbusters 2, Electric Boogaloo are going on here.
I love it. Audio listeners, you are missing out on Dan's nails. Do you remember last week where I was like, I've got my own nails and they're all naturally long? They're not now. Had an incident where I snapped me, like I'm not giving you the finger, but I had an incident where I snapped my nail and it's gone right the way at the top. Yeah, I was absolutely devastated. Then I had to lose all of them today. I was wounded. Is that it?
It is.
Wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This week, next week. Okay, well, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever. Bye.
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.